So tomorrow is Christmas Eve, and then we have the beginning of the season of Christmas. People think the Christmas season begins the day after Thanksgiving or Black Friday. For commercial Christmas, this is when it begins. For the Protestants, this is when it begins. For the atheists, this is where it begins. Um, but for anybody who has any form of historic Christianity, it begins Christmas Day, and then it goes until Epiphany or Theophany or Three Kings Day, whichever one you like to call it. And both traditions, both the baptism of Christ being that day and the Magi arriving on that day, are both equally valid. They're ancient, they're from pre schism times. Um, so we have, we go from the season of Christmas, through to the Theophany or Epiphany. Um, just as this season right now is Advent. All right, and we're just about on the cusp of the turning time. That's why it's at midnight. You see, and how the day begins actually at sundown. But one thing I want to stress to you in this time is where do rights come from? Where do your rights come from? Do they come from the Constitution? I know many people would say, yeah, our rights come from the Constitution. No, they don't. This is why it's so important that people say America's not a Christian country. Well, it has to be. It can't exist any other way, because our rights, you can't believe in the Declaration of Independence or the the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. I mean, without being a Christian, you could technically. I mean, there still are people out there. There are atheists out there who say, and people who are non-Christian theistic people who announce that they believe it. They haven't thought it through, though, because our rights come from God. That's why they are inalienable. That's why we have the right to fight our own government if necessary. That's why we had the right to fight the King of England, is because our rights come from God. This is why Christmas is a national holiday. And it's totally ridiculous when people say, well, it's a Christian country because the majority of people here are Christian. Well, that would mean that Egypt, up until the 1400s, was a Christian country, even though it was ruled by Islam at that point for 700 years. And Lebanon, up until the 1940s, was a Christian country. And that China is now a Christian country, and if it's not a Christian country now, it will be within the next 20 years, even though it's communist. This is a ludicrous idea of saying that something's a Christian country. No, it's our Bill of Rights and our 10 Amendments. And if you look at that and say, well, anybody could look at that and believe in that, that just shows how far saturated into culture that Christianity is. Many atheists have now realized this, saying, oh, well, we're cultural Christians. Because look at the idea of right and wrong, of good and evil. People get very angry when I say this stems out of Christianity. They're, no, it doesn't. Well, I'm not responsible for your ignorance. Why is it wrong to kill children? Why is it wrong to kill pregnant? I mean, things as simple as this. Other societies, they had concepts of killing and murder, of murder being unsanctioned killing, unlawful killing, right? But it wasn't universal. Um, look how the samurais did things. They had strict laws that you had to the feudal Japan had strict laws that you had to obey by. But if you were even if you were ignoble, if you could overpower the next samurai and show your power, you couldn't do anything wrong unless you could win, and then you were the ruler. And say this worked for their society and it held their society together and everything, but it's still not the way that we function. When I say the West, people think the West is just America or England. No, it's all of Europe and all of North and South America is the West. And that even includes Australia and the Philippines. And it includes all of Russia, even, Asia. Israel is not the West, but you could say, oh, well, it is because it grew out of the West. So you can kind of say that. For a time, Iraq could have been considered part of the West before the Iraq War. And in fact, Western civilization is the split between India and the Fertile Crescent. Western civilization begins with Sumer and Akkad and goes into Egypt and Greece. So, yeah, no, we should reflect upon what it means, what Christmas actually means. The beginning of the establishment of our Christian culture, which would take over the West and become equated with Western culture. But it's the beginning of, really is the beginning of human rights. Because this is where this concept is really spread to the rest of the world. You could say it began with the Old Testament, but the Old Testament, it wasn't universal. It was only among the actual Jews. And you didn't get extended to other people, because look at the way they marched into Canaan and what they did there. Peace to you.